We're looking at quadrilaterals today. And a quadrilateral is basically, it is a type of polygon. A quadrilateral has four sides. Just like a triangle is a type of polygon, but it has three sides. And we focused on triangles in a past lesson. So today we're going to focus on quadrilaterals. Now let's explore all the types of quadrilaterals here. The first one you see, it says a quadrilateral is a four-sided shape. That's your main definition of a quadrilateral. It's a four-sided shape. Now, this is going to show all the types of quadrilaterals. This first one is a square. It's got four equal sides. Notice the tick marks. They're all exactly the same. And it has four right angles. Okay, then we've got a rectangle. A rectangle also has four right angles, but it only has two pairs of parallel sides. For instance, this side is parallel to this side. And this side is parallel to that side. See the difference in the rectangle and the square? The square also has parallel sides, just like the rectangle, but the sides of a rectangle aren't equal in length. The sides of a square all are equal in length. That's why they all have the same tick mark. If you look at this side on the rectangle, it has two tick marks. That means that side matches this side. This one has one tick mark, so it matches this side. A trapezoid has one pair of parallel sides. That means this is parallel to this. Notice we don't even see tick marks. We don't see tick marks on these because these lines are not the same length. But we do see one pair of parallel sides. That is something unique about the trapezoid. You're going to notice all of these quadrilaterals will have two pairs of parallel sides, but the trapezoid has only one pair. Okay, look at the parallelogram. The parallelogram, this line is parallel to this line. And this line is parallel to this line. See, once again, just like the rectangle, and I should have done this up here with the square. I could say this line is parallel to this line, and this line is parallel to this line, okay? But notice the trapezoid only had one color. Okay, going down to the rhombus. And by the way, notice the tick marks. Two tick marks match. That doesn't mean that they're parallel. It means their length is the same. One tick mark, those match. Okay? All right, the rhombus. This line is parallel to this line. And this line is parallel to this line. So it's got two pairs of parallel sides. And also notice there's two tick marks on every line. That means this is a lot like a square. It has, the sides are all equal length. The difference is it doesn't have right angles like a square does. And the last one is a kite. A kite has no parallel sides, none, but it does have sides with equal lengths. Like this side is equal to this side. You see the tick marks. This side is equal to that side, the tick marks. So here's your family of quadrilaterals. Now let's look at this sheet. Hopefully you have this with you, and we're going to go through this quickly. Look at this first one. We're basically just starting off in the introduction. A blank is a polygon with four sides and four angles. That is simply a quadrilateral. A quadrilateral. And then we come down, and it says a blank is a quadrilateral with one pair of parallel sides. Remember a while ago, the trapezoid had one pair of parallel sides. Trapezoid. Eventually, you'll start to memorize these things, so don't get discouraged. All right, a blank is a quadrilateral with two pairs of parallel sides. Now, we did notice that a lot of these had two pairs of parallel sides, but the one that is known for that is the parallelogram. When we do our hierarchy lesson, it's the next lesson after this, this will make more sense to you. But a parallelogram is known for having two pairs of parallel sides. So this, you're going to write parallelogram right here. Okay? Now our parallelogram, notice the trapezoid doesn't have any arrows that come down. A trapezoid is by itself. The parallelogram will have arrows coming down because these all under this would be types of parallelograms because all of these have two pairs of parallel sides. All right, this says a blank is a parallelogram with four congruent sides. Well, we know a square and a rhombus have four congruent sides. Remember, here's the square, here's the rhombus. All of the sides are the same length. So this is a rhombus. I can only call it a square if it said it had four right angles also. Okay, a blank is a parallelogram with four right angles. And hopefully you recognize this as being a rectangle. And then we come down, and this is a square. And it is a parallelogram with four right angles and four congruent sides. The square has what the rhombus is known for and the rectangle put together. Now, once again, we're going to be continuing this lesson even after today. So this vocabulary will still be around a while, so don't get discouraged with it. All right, down at the bottom, we've got our word bank. We've got trapezoid, parallelogram, rhombus, rectangle, and square. We've got to label all of these. Now look at this one. Looking at this, don't call it a rhombus because it's turned around. This is just a square. So if it's a square, I'm going to put an E on it. And I'm going to mark that out, saying that I've used it. All right, what about this one? This is a rectangle, D, good. All right, this one. This is a rhombus. All right, coming down to this figure, we've got parallelogram left and a trapezoid. Remember, a parallelogram has to have two pairs of parallel sides. A trapezoid only has one pair. And hopefully you recognize that this side is parallel to this side, and it only has one pair. So this would be our trapezoid, okay? And then this would be the parallelogram. I always like to describe a parallelogram. It looks like a rectangle that's slanted. A rhombus looks like a square that's slanted. The parallelogram or the rhombus, neither one will have right angles. The only ones with right angles are going to be the rectangle and the square. Okay, let's turn over on the back. All right, on the back, we are matching. We are matching. It says, if it has four right angles. Now, the only thing that I could say over here to describe it as having four right angles would be a quadrilateral. Excuse me, I apologize. No, I'm wrong. I'm thinking of 4 sides. So delete that from your brain that I said that. I'm looking for 4 right angles. Which one over here is known for having 4 right angles? And that's it. We've got quadrilateral, trapezoid, parallelogram, rhombus, rectangle, and square. Well, we know the rectangle and the square both have 4 right angles. But the square also has congruent sides. If this isn't saying congruent sides, then it can't be talking about the square. So I've got to call it the rectangle. Okay? 2 pairs of parallel sides. One of these figures is known just for having 2 pairs of parallel sides. That's how you identify it immediately. It's going to have 4 sides and 2 pairs parallel. Hopefully you're catching on a little bit more. That's our parallelogram. Our parallelogram. All right, 1 pair of parallel sides. Now this one's that odd one. 1 pair of parallel sides. Quadrilateral, trapezoid, rhombus, and square. Hopefully you said trapezoid. All right, look at this. 4 congruent sides. That means 4 sides all the same length and 4 right angles. This would describe a square. Now look at E. 4 sides and 4 angles. That is our quadrilateral. And then 4 congruent sides. That would be the rhombus, F. All right, let's look at these problems. Christina built a tabletop with 2 sets of parallel sides. All 4 sides are congruent. What is the name of the shape of Christina's tabletop? Well, 2 sets of parallel sides. We know that's a parallelogram. But remember, a parallelogram comes down here, a rhombus, a rectangle, and a square. All of these have 2 sets of parallel sides. So we can't let that be the only clue we use. Then it says all 4 sides are congruent. Now, we know there are only 2 on here that have 4 congruent sides. That's the rhombus and the square. I can't call her tabletop a square because it didn't tell me it had right angles. So I'm going to have to go with rhombus. Rhombus. All right, it says list the geometric properties of a rectangle. All right, let's look. A rectangle, we know it has 4 right angles. Now, let me show you a trick to this about the rectangle. I'm flipping back, I apologize. Here's the rectangle. It has 4 right angles. It is also a parallelogram. If it is a parallelogram, it also has 2 pairs of parallel sides. So it has 4 right angles and 2 pairs of parallel sides. Once again, our next lesson will continue to focus on this. So don't panic just yet. It will get better. All right, look at number 4. What is one geometric property the shapes below have in common? And what is one way that they are different? Include the name for each shape in your answer. Well, let's look at these. Let's name these. All right, this is going to be a rhombus. Let me get another color. Rhombus. And this is a parallelogram. Remember, a rhombus looks like a square that's been flattened a little bit. It has congruent sides and no right angles. And this is a parallelogram. A parallelogram looks like a rectangle that's been flattened, but it has no right angles. So I've got to say what they have in common. So let's talk a minute about what they have in common. I could say they both have four sides, and they both have two pairs of parallel sides. Now over here, I need to say how they're different. And if you'll notice, we know the rhombus has congruent sides and the parallelogram does not. The rhombus has four congruent sides. The parallelogram, having to write fast, does not. All right, it says draw a trapezoid in this space. Remember, a trapezoid only has one pair of parallel sides. And you're probably used to seeing a trapezoid look like this. See, this line is parallel to this line. But another way you could draw a trapezoid would be like that. That's a trapezoid. See, here's the pair of parallel sides, but these would not be parallel. But there's your trapezoid. All right. It says match each quadrilateral with its name by writing the corresponding letter. We did this a while ago, so we're just basically, we're practicing this again. Okay, we've got trapezoid, parallelogram, rhombus, rectangle, and square. Remember, a trapezoid only has one pair of parallel sides. Do you see anything that has one pair of parallel sides? What about this? This could be the trapezoid. Okay. All right, a parallelogram. Let's think about what a parallelogram, what it's known for is having two pairs of parallel sides. Now, I could say, oh, this has two pair. Here's a pair, here's a pair. This has two pair. These are parallel and these are parallel. This has two pair. These are parallel, these are parallel. This shape has two pair. These are parallel and these are parallel. But all of these shapes have other features also. We're looking for it can only have two sets of parallel sides. The sides won't be congruent. It won't have right angles. Let's skip this. By the way, remember a parallelogram looks like a rectangle that's been flattened a little bit. Do you see it now? I bet you do. This is it. My clue gave it away, didn't it? Now, a rhombus. Now, a rhombus also has two pairs of parallel sides, but a rhombus has congruent sides also. That means all of the sides are equal. It's going to be one of these. But remember, a rhombus doesn't have four right angles. So which one of these would be the rhombus? I hope you said this one, C. All right, remember a rectangle. It has four right angles. It does have two pair of parallel sides, just like a parallelogram. But it also has opposite sides are equal. Like this side length is equal to that side length. This side length is equal to that side length. So this is definitely your rectangle. And then the square, of course, it's known for congruent sides, all of them, and four right angles. So that's our square. All right, it says Sandy has a piece of land with 4 sides. So right now we know it's a quadrilateral. The land has 2 sets of parallel sides, okay? So that could be a parallelogram. We know it's not a trapezoid because a trapezoid only has 1 set of parallel sides. So this is going to be a type of parallelogram. So that means it's going to be this, 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 or this. All of these have 2 pair of parallel sides. But let's read more clues. Oh, and look, and it has 4 right angles. So it's got 4 sides, which makes it a quadrilateral. It's got 2 sets of parallel sides, which makes it a parallelogram. And it has 4 right angles. So we're looking for a parallelogram with 4 right angles. What is the best name for the shape of her land? The best name. Now, if it's got 4 right angles, it could be a square or a rectangle. Since it didn't say that all sides were congruent, I can't call it a square. So I'm going to have to call it a rectangle. A rectangle. All right, number 3 says, draw a square in the space below. List the properties that make it a square. All right, I'm going to use my artistic ability and draw a square. Remember, we want all sides to be congruent, and I'll do my best to do that. And I'll do tick marks to prove this side and this side's congruent, and that side's congruent. And it also has 4 right angles. So list the properties. I would say 4 right angles, and I would say 4 congruent sides. Or I would say 4 sides of equal length. That's the same thing. Now, I could go on and say it had 4 sides. I could say it had 2 pairs of parallel lines, but I'm wanting to stick with what a square is known for. This is what the square is known for. All right, number 4 says, what is the best name for this shape? Now, we know it's a quadrilateral. That would name it. Let's see if we can go beyond that. Once we know that it's a quadrilateral, then we try to say, well, is it a trapezoid or a parallelogram? A trapezoid has 1 pair of parallel sides. A parallelogram has 2 pair. Let's see what this one has. All right, this side is parallel to this side. There's 1 pair. Are these sides parallel? No. So this only has 1 pair of parallel sides. So this is a trapezoid. It says explain how you know trapezoid because it has only 1 pair of parallel sides. Okay, now let's come down at the bottom. Matt cut a piece of metal with 4 straight sides. Okay, so it's got 4 sides. We know it's a quadrilateral. It has no pairs of parallel sides and no congruent sides. What is the best name for Matt's shape? How do you know? Well, if it's got 4 straight sides, we know we can call it a quadrilateral. And it said it had no pairs of parallel sides. So it can't be a trapezoid or a parallelogram because this has 1 pair of parallel sides. This has 2 pair. Now, I do know that a kite has no parallel sides, but a kite has equal sides, 2 pairs of equal sides. This says it has no pairs of parallel sides. So I can't call it a kite. So the only thing I can really call this is a quadrilateral. Quadrilateral. Hope I spell this right. I may not. And we've got to say why quadrilateral, because it doesn't qualify as any other figures. Okay? All right. I'm going to let you practice this by yourself. You've got this that you could do, and you've got this that you can do. When you finish it, let me see how you did on it. If you need any help, reach out to me. Thanks for watching.